You know all those myths and legends, the ones we've been told for generations? Well, what if they're more than just stories? Ancient astronaut theorists believe they're actually fragments of a lost chapter in human history, one that's packed with advanced civilizations, global catastrophes, and just maybe visitors from another world. Okay, let's get into it.
So, right at the heart of this whole mystery, there's one singular event that just keeps popping up all over the world in all these ancient traditions: a great world ending flood. And the question these theorists are asking is pretty simple. Why? Is it really just a coincidence, or is it some kind of shared global memory of something that actually happened?
And that question brings us to our first huge topic, this idea of an antediluvian civilization. That means a world that existed and was maybe even thriving before a massive flood came and just changed everything.
For the people who believe this theory, the fact that so many different cultures, totally disconnected from each other, tell the same basic story, well, that's no accident. They argue it's actually evidence of a collective memory, a real historical account of a world that was lost beneath the waves. And when you look at how widespread these stories are, it's pretty staggering. I mean, they're everywhere. From the Middle East with Genesis and the Epic of Gilgamesh, all the way to the Americas with Hopi and Incan traditions. The narrative is always strikingly the same. Some divine power gets angry, sends a flood, but a handful of survivors make it through to tell the tale. Now, when you start talking about lost civilizations from before a great flood, there is one name that just stands above all the rest, right? Atlantis. This is where the legend really starts to take shape. The whole story really starts with the Greek philosopher Plato. He described Atlantis as this incredibly powerful island nation that existed something like 9,000 years before he was even alive. But fast forward to today, and that theory has evolved. Some now suggest this lost civilization wasn't just advanced, but maybe its origins were extraterrestrial, and that its ruins are now frozen solid under the ice in Antarctica. And that's the core claim from theorist Michael Salla. He's proposing that Atlantis wasn't a human civilization at all, but an off-world colony. In his view, a catastrophic pole shift didn't actually destroy Atlantis. It flash froze it and dragged it to the spot we now call the South Pole. Now, central to Plato's whole legend is this mysterious metal called orichalcum. And get this, the name itself literally means of unknown origin, which kind of hints at its otherworldly nature. Plato said it was kept in the main temple of Poseidon and was second only to gold in how valuable it was. So here's the really crucial part. When metal ingots thought to be orichalcum were analyzed, they turned out to be a copper-zinc alloy. But pure zinc doesn't just occur in nature. You have to process it from ore. Theorists argued there's no way people could create this alloy 11,000 years ago, which means it had to be a gift, a piece of technology from the gods, or, as they would say, from extraterrestrials. And the Atlantis story isn't seen as some one-off tale. Theorists draw these direct lines to the Aztec origin story of Aztlan. I mean, look at the parallels. Both were island cities founded by a god. Both had some kind of secret technology. And both legends come from a homeland that was lost in a cataclysm. The similarities, they say, point to a single, forgotten source. But hey, the Atlantic doesn't have a monopoly on these kinds of legends. If you go to the other side of the planet, over to the Pacific, you find remarkably similar stories of lost continents. You might have heard of them, Mu and Lemuria. So according to Polynesian and native Hawaiian lore, the islands that dot the Pacific today are really just the mountaintops of a once great continent called Mu. And crucially, their traditions say the original settlers of Mu came from the heavens, specifically from the Pleiades star cluster. People who believe this theory don't just point to myths, they point to massive, mysterious structures. You've got partially submerged cities like Nanmadol, these giant underwater platforms at Yonaguni, and the incredible site of Gunung Padang. They are all cited as possible physical leftovers of these lost Pacific civilizations. And the age being proposed for some of these sites is just staggering. Geologists who studied Gunung Padang think its deepest layers could be over 20,000 years old. That would place its construction deep in the last ice age, a time when sea levels were way lower and a landmass called Sundaland connected all the islands of Indonesia. So how do all these different pieces fit together? You've got Atlantis in the Atlantic, Mu in the Pacific, flood myths all over the globe, and these mysterious metals. Well, this is where we get to the grand unifying theory that ties it all together. This is the ultimate question that the ancient astronaut theory asks. Are these all just separate myths from separate cultures? Or are they all just different ways of telling the same global story? A story about an advanced civilization guided by extraterrestrials that was wiped from the face of the Earth. As the theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos puts it, the fact that these stories are identical across so many cultures points to a single source. And in his view, that source isn't just human storytelling, it's a shared experience with the same visitors from another world. The theory basically proposes a cyclical view of history. Advanced civilizations may be kickstarted by some extraterrestrial knowledge, rise up, and then fall in these huge cataclysms. The survivors, people like Noah or the figures in Hopi lore, they start the cycle all over again, passing down these fragmented memories of the world that came before. And just to add another layer, the famous psychic Edgar Cayce claimed that this lost knowledge isn't entirely gone. He believed it was all stored in a hidden hall of records, and that the souls of the Atlanteans have actually been reborn, continuing their civilization's legacy in a new form in modern America. All of this really leads to a tantalizing final thought. With our modern technology, we can explore the deepest parts of the ocean, we can see beneath the polar ice caps. Are we getting closer to a discovery? A final piece of the puzzle that could rewrite everything we think we know about our own past? Ultimately, that is the bold prediction from the people who support this theory. Whether it's all just myths or a forgotten memory, the stories of these lost civilizations continue to challenge our view of history, leaving all of us to wonder what truths might still be out there, just waiting to be discovered.